Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of A Handful of Hope. I am so happy and grateful to have John with us today, who is currently one of the most successful transformation coaches in the US and has helped clients lose a collective total of over 8,000 pounds. With a master's in nutrition and strength and conditioning, John has the ability to coach you on a whole other level than what you can typically get in the fitness space. John prides himself on getting every single person he works with in the best shape possible and the shortest time frame possible using his own proven and effective methods. John, thank you so much for being here, man. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
No problem, brother. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's a really fascinating time, right, for health.
It
We
is.
are, at the time of this recording, it is April 13th, and we're right in the midst of, in the US here anyways, the Corona COVID pandemic. And it's at a time where a lot of people are really thinking about their health. People are worried. The biggest fear I hear people talking about is about if they get sick. So there's this, I think people are really staring their self in the face of their own mortality, maybe in a way they haven't before. On the contrast of that, though, the New York Times just came out with an article. I think it was the New York Times or LA Times, one of the two. And they published one of those infographics that was showing spending habits of Americans the last month or so, and how there was this massive decrease in spending on fitness. And then there's this increase on spending on stuff like alcohol and other things. So it's interesting that we're really concerned about our health, but then we're decreasing our spending on the very thing that helps with our health. And we're increasing our spending on probably one of the worst inhibitors of our good health. I'm wondering what your thought is on that and what you're seeing with your clients during this time.
I read that same article. It wasn't surprising to me because if you think about it, we kind of do that across the board with things that don't give us instant gratification or move us away from pain. And we spend way more money and time, resources, and energy on things that can temporarily solve problems. And that's why in the fitness space, spending a monthly investment on a coach who's going to spend a plethora amount of time helping you on all aspects of health is far less sexy than buying the newest toy that you can buy for like $200. It's so much better to think that this is something that I can just purchase once and I'm good. And subconsciously, you might even think you don't even have to use it, right? It's just the fact that you're purchasing it is enough rather than tackling all of these things that you know you need to solve. So much better sounding if you're an alcohol drinker, especially if you're an avid alcohol drinker, to move away from some of those problems by spending more time on something that is obviously going to take your mind off of it. So I wasn't surprised. I was more disappointed. But I can see why that would be the case. And also at the same time, we have this interesting way of convincing ourselves of things that matter and then things that don't matter. Because even though there's a pandemic right now, right, money didn't just disappear. It's just being spent in different ways. And so across the board, we're seeing in the fitness industry a shift between it's a weird shift because there's a shift in valuing your health more, but there's a decreased shift in valuing the help to get healthy more. And so I find that interesting. They find, generally speaking, they find it more of a waste of money right now than they would potentially when money is normal and they're getting a paycheck and so on and so forth. Spending $100 a month on a coach or on a product or on a service or on an online program is being viewed as a waste rather than spending $100 on something else, even though it's just as equally as, you're still spending $100. You're just not getting anything out of it if you spend it on alcohol. So
that's really interesting because I think that article highlighted the things going up were meal delivery services like restaurant delivery, alcohol, online gaming, entertainment modalities and stuff. So again, kind of speaking to that point where you're saying stuff that is instant gratification, pulling us out of pain. People are at home. They don't want to sit with stress, anxiety, worry that's going on right now. And rather than doing some exercise, which is probably the best thing that you could do to get out of those states, it's showing a behavioral trend maybe to do more towards distraction and instant gratification that comes with it?
Yeah, so gaming has gone up like 10, like just tremendously. And it makes sense because if you are stuck around the same five people, right? And you can come together and play Call of Duty, and you can just, you can just bicker and banter and everything's going to be okay after 4 hours of playing Call of Duty, then, that sounds so much more fun than sweating your ass off doing burpees. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, like the concept of like, oh, I'm going to spend this time to get healthy is there, but then when the action starts to happen, there's that gap, which there's always that gap between, understanding that a change needs to be made versus actually actively making the change. There's always that gap in growth. And so just finding a way to get people to shift and refocus, because, spending money on restaurants, that's not going to help you. In fact, you're wasting more money doing that than trying to figure out your nutritional habits, right? If you spend $9 on one burger, you could have had 3 meals for the $9. And so, but you wouldn't know that if you weren't being held accountable by someone who's helping you out, a trainer, a coach, or a program that you're following, or so on and so forth.
John, how much, as a business owner, you have a physical gym space, right? And I'm assuming that your gym's closed now. Have you migrated most of your people online to digital programs? And
Yeah.
what does that process look like for you?
Yeah, so I own a gym in Portland, and Portland, Oregon. That closed about 3 weeks ago. We were actually the last gym in Portland to close. We found a way to by training no more than 5 people at a time, we were able to last quite a long time. But eventually we got the full lockdown, and we shifted everybody to my online services because I already have that side of the business. So that was kind of an easy shift for me. I just took everybody, I made them log in, username and passwords, log them into my private membership site, and then I just got them momentum, and we just got started. For me personally, it was an easier shift to get my current clients onto that platform. If you are a personal trainer who doesn't have something already set up, it's a little bit bigger of a project, but you can do something just as simple as another service that I'm now offering, which is live workouts, live nutrition and meal prep, and live Q&As. Something as simple as that, where you spend 2 hours every day or every other day hopping on Facebook or Instagram, or even doing a Zoom call like this, and you just do it live, and you have 5, 10, 15 people in there as a paid subscriber who is working out with you. That can be super motivating. I mean, what's more motivating than being live on your TV or on your phone or on your computer, pushing you and actively trying to work you through a workout, when everything else in society is telling you that it's okay to be, super lazy. And so if you're a trainer, or if you're somebody who usually has a trainer who is out of work right now, and so you're out of a trainer, that's a perfect opportunity for you to hunt down somebody who's doing live workouts and nutrition and meal prep, who's going to hop on a live call with you every day like this, and is going to be teaching and working out with you and educating you on how to be better. So, I mean, that's a great opportunity for both the trainer to make money and both the client to continue to get work in.
I love the innovation with that. How much of a piece is a psychology piece that you're hitting home with your clients right now? Because going back to this dynamic of, right, there's fitness spending is going down, alcohol, instant gratification stuff is going up. And so for me, like my big question is wondering, like, where do we all, when we emerge from this, where are we at? The optimist in me holds this space where we emerge, and we've used this time to, really reset and get closer with our loved ones, work on goals we haven't worked on, come out in great shape, everything else. Then there's also a part of me that wonders, what kind of stress, what kind of emotional struggle are people under when they emerge? Where's society at in that point? For you, working with people in such an intimate way, with probably the most important part of their life, which is their health, how important is the psychology piece that you're talking with your clients right now? What does that conversation look like?
Well, it's everything, right? So like, I mean, some people will say, abs are built in the kitchen, or if you want to lose weight, you got to focus on your nutrition, right? Which is true. Or you got to strength train, you got to drink water, you got to sleep, you got to work on hormone function, all of these different things. None of those things are wrong. None of those things matter more than what's going on in between your ears, right? So if you have limiting belief systems, or if you just don't value yourself, or if you don't value the workouts that you're doing, or if you don't see the path, if you don't truly believe that what you're doing every day is going to yield, X, going from A to B, then why would you put in all the work if you don't believe that it's going to get you anywhere, right? As a trainer, you have to show them that waking up at 7 o'clock to do a workout from home for 30 minutes is going to move the needle to here, which is going to allow you to do X, Y, and Z, which is going to move the needle to here, which is where you want to be, right? So if you can't show that, why would I ever get up at 7 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to spin my wheels, and now I'm working hard. Now I'm tired. Now I'm up early, and I'm where I was at the beginning. You have to show them that it's going to, push the needle. And as long as you can show them that it's going to push the needle, an individual is far more likely to continue to put in that habit. But at the same time, self-drive, I can't make somebody work out or focus on their food or make changes with their sugar intake or go to bed on time. All I can do is motivate them to kind of light that spark and give them some external motivation. But at some point, just like everything else, you got to have some internal motivation, right? You've ever been to like a multi-level marketing thing, which is where you go to the big conference and they rah you up and you sign up because you're super pumped. That's normal. I mean, external motivation gets you to take action on something, which is important, but you have to have internal motivation to continue to go. Because once that external motivation goes down, you have to have something that's going to drive yourself to continue to
Yeah.
put in the work. Otherwise, you're just constantly looking for this new fix of this raw feeling. And you can only find that so many times before it just kind of withers away. So internal motivation, self-discipline, self-drive, clarity of vision, understanding your own value, understanding what your self-confidence level is right now and where you want it to be and how to get it there. All of those things is what takes a client from kind of working out or even just not working out at all to just putting in insane amounts of effort and creating a total body transformation.
Your clients who are because I agree that internal motivation, that's the piece, right?
Yeah.
And your clients who are being successful right now, not just with their workouts, but with their nutrition too. Are you noticing a key or a recurring internal motivation driver? What are they focusing on? What are they thinking about? And I'd love for you to share it, because I'm imagining that there's people watching right now who are trying to get the fitness piece figured out, especially in this time of disruption. And if they could just figure out what their own internal spark is, I think they would get it too. So what are you seeing that's successful for your people in terms of internal motivators?
Well, actually, I think, Jesse, I think you might have taught me this one. There's like an exercise you can go through. It's called the why. I call it the why challenge, but I think you might have called it something else. I could have sworn I learned it from you 4 years ago. But basically, I would encourage anybody who's thinking about a health change, whether that's a big change or a small change, or somewhere in between, to figure out why they want to accomplish it to begin with. And the first suggestion is to write out your goal. So get real crystal clear on what you want your goal to be. So I want to lose 30 pounds by September. Great. Okay. That's obviously a pretty superficial goal, right? So you have to ask yourself, why do you want to accomplish that? And then you would write the answer to that question right below the goal. And you would do that 10 to 15 times. Each time you do that, that question is going to be harder and harder to answer, because you actually have to think about it more, right? The more superficial the goal, the easier it is to answer. I want to look good. Okay, why do you want to look good? Because of X, Y, and Z. Well, why does X, Y, and Z matter, right? You just keep going. You get super granular with it. And you're going to get to a point where you don't want to answer the question anymore, not because you ran out of ideas, but because you don't want to talk about it. And those are the things that you actually have to start addressing. Those are the pain points that got you out of shape to begin with. that you're running from, that you're not solving, and those lack of solutions is contributing to the weight gain, or contributing to the, not putting in the work to get stronger, or whatever the goal is. And so if you can solve those problems, the weight will take care of itself. So a lot of people, not to put answers in people's mouths, but a lot of people, it kind of always comes down to the same thing, which is I want to be able to do the things I want to do with the people that I want to do it with, do it on my terms, and feel and look good doing it. I mean, generally speaking, on a broad stroke answer, that's kind of it, right? I want to be able to either like play with my kids the way that I want to play with my kids, or I want to be intimate with my spouse the way I want to be intimate with my spouse and look good naked, or I want to, be 90 but not be in a wheelchair. I want to be 90 and pull weeds in my garden, right? It all comes back down to the same stuff. You just got to get there, and you got to have those kind of tougher conversations. I have no problems telling you what I want to accomplish and why I want to accomplish it. I mean, I have no trouble doing that because I've done it so many times, and I've gotten okay with my own shit and what my own downfalls are and my own problems are. So I have no problems talking about that. A lot of people have never, or haven't in a while, addressed some of those problems.
I would encourage all of you to really do that exercise John's talking about. And even if you realize that your why is going to be some of the things he just listed off, don't deprive yourself of the gift of doing that exercise. The reason being is there's a difference between logically connecting to it and understanding it, and emotionally going through that experience and giving yourself the gift of feeling it.
Yep.
Pulling the layers back like that, because what it does is it essentially strips you down more and more to this more raw, like beautifully vulnerable place where you get really, really clear on what and who really, really matters most to you. That's much deeper than the first answer that will come up.
Yep. And I mean, that's the exact same reason as to why, you should always write out a goal handwritten instead of type it, or, all of those different things. You put so much more emotion behind a pen than you do behind a keyboard. So like always write it out, always put it, somewhere where you can see it, things like that. Because emotionally you're just connecting with it, and you just got to connect with stuff. If I told you what my goals are and I tried to shove my goals into you to make you do it, you'd never do it because you don't care. You have no emotional connection to it. But if you got super emotionally invested in my goal, and that all of a sudden became your goal and nothing mattered more, then you do everything I asked, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get emotionally invested behind what you say you want to accomplish.
John, I want to talk about the cookie trap. You and I were talking beforehand about the cookie.
I like a good cookie though.
The cookie consumption going on right now, and the clever strategic placing that you're observing with cookies.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about what the cookie trap is, and what are some ways that you're helping people, or you're teaching them how they can avoid falling into that trap.
Yeah. So let me explain what I noticed. So the grocery stores around my house, I got like 3 Safeways, a Fred Meyer, a Winco. I mean, those are kind of the big ones. A Costco, of course, we have a Costco, and a Walmart. And at least where I'm at right now, the social distancing rules, you have to be 6 feet away from each customer, right? So, and you can only have one, and there's a Target. You can only have one customer at the cashier at a time. The rest have to be like 15 feet away. So you can't put food on the cart or on the conveyor belt until it's your turn to actually check out. So that means people are getting backed up into like the actual aisles of the grocery store. What I noticed is that there's cookies have, as far as like cookie sales, have gone up dramatically since we went into lockdown. And if you go into your grocery store, you'll notice this, that cookies like Chips Ahoy, they typically sit in the middle of the cookie aisle, like right in the middle, along with chocolates and things like that. They shifted all of the Chips Ahoy to the front of plethora, like all of the aisles that lead into the actual like conveyor belts and the cashiers. So people are sitting there waiting to be seen, to be checked out, and they have Chips Ahoy at all of their stand-in stations. So I find that super interesting.
So people are talking about top of mind, right? They literally have Chips Ahoy staring in front of their face. So while they're sitting there waiting in line, it's going one step above. You only see the candy bars and the quick access stuff right at the checkout counter. Now you have the in what we think of chocolate chip cookies, especially. It's like the ultimate comfort food, right?
Yeah.
We all have that memory of a warm, gooey cookie and just the smell of it, and it makes you feel safe, makes you feel home, makes you feel comfortable. And I think it's really wonderful to be able to treat yourself, have some comfort stuff during this time. Problem is there's a big difference between one Chips Ahoy cookie and an entire bag of Chips Ahoy cookies,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
Your clients who are going through this right now, how are you coaching them through that? What tips are you giving them to avoid falling into the chocolate chip cookie trap?
Well, there's some like general what do you call them, golden rules as opposed to shopping. The first one is never go shopping hungry. You always end up buying something that you can eat on the way home, like in the car, and or you buy something that's typically very, very sugar and carbohydrate based and easy to make once you get home, so you can snack while you cook. So you never go to the grocery store hungry. If you have to go to the grocery store, uh, always have a plan. So I walk into the grocery store, I put my blinders on, I put my little like sunglasses of nose, right? And I go and buy my shit and leave. So I don't Google eye around and go, I wonder what I should buy. I'm here. Do I need anything else on the list? I write it down and I go and execute it. If I forgot to write peanut butter down before I left, then I'll go get peanut butter the next time I have to go. I'll put it on the list. But I'm not going to just kind of walk around the store saying, what else should I buy? Because when you're in that mode of what else should I buy, it's like going on Amazon with a $300 gift card. Like you just start buying stuff and you don't really care. And so, but if you go in, you say, I need to get this, 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 and this, get it, done, got it, good. And you leave. If you're stuck in the aisle and just waiting, I don't even look at the candy bars. I don't look at what's around. I do because I use them as teaching points. But if I was the individual who's struggling with buying poor quality food, I would sit there and I would look at them. I would look at my feet and I would talk about I would just talk about anything else, like what I need to do for the day. What do I need to accomplish? What's going to move the needle with my health? I'd talk positively about myself. If you catch yourself looking at the foods, you'd be like, I would encourage somebody to say, I don't need this right now. This is something that I want because it's going to make me feel, X, Y, and Z at the moment, but it's going to make me feel like shit later. So I'm not going to buy this. And if the more you tell yourself that you're not going to buy this, that you don't have control over me and I have control over whether or not I spend money on you, you are far more prone to getting good at just saying no to the nonsense food. Like I have no problems saying no to cookies or chips or ice cream or something like that. If I choose to buy it because it's my choice and I've planned for it properly, because I have control over what it is I'm doing. So I've planned for it calorically, I've planned for it emotionally, I've planned for it throughout the week. So I've been putting in a little bit extra with my training. And so when I eat my ice cream, I have no problems eating it because I've set myself up for it to not ruin my day. Most people don't do that. They just buy ice cream instead of going through this process of like, do I need this now? Probably not, most definitely not. And then if I really want it, can I set it up better to where I can eat it, but not feel terrible and not ruin what it is that I'm already working on?
I'm so glad you spoke to that, because one of my wishes for this whole time is right now, many of them are for the first time really having to take into consideration strategic planning with going to a grocery store, right? Whether it's the time you're going or what might be there. And so they're having to think about think about it in the act of shopping more than they might have normally. And I hope that's a habit that sticks, because it's so critical, right? It's the times we fall off our goals, or the times we're not focused on our goals. It's the times we allow ourselves to be distracted and go somewhere else. And there's lots of good smells and colorful wrapping and everything there. That's a temptation. John, as somebody who's helped people lose over 8,000 pounds, there's people watching right now that probably want to lose weight during this time. And They've been struggling with stress, they've been struggling with anxiety, and for them it would be the biggest win of their life if they could come out of this losing weight, feeling better, feeling like they have more control over their health. Because I'm hoping, you and I were talking about this before, that the concern people have for their health right now, it doesn't stop once we get past this coronavirus period, because we still, at least in the US, we live in a country where the biggest killer is heart disease. And it dwarfs everything else. And most of heart disease is preventable, or at least delayable, with good nutrition and exercise habits. So I'm hoping that maybe one of the byproducts of this is we have people come out, better health habits, see that number reduce dramatically over the coming years. For somebody who's in that space, they're wanting to really take this time, seize the opportunity to make an impact on their health. What is the number one thing they need to be doing?
That's a big question. Generally speaking, based off of what people are spending money on now, there's a few gaps. Generally, people are saying that they don't have money when it comes time to invest money in themselves, but they have money when it comes time to invest money into things that don't actually matter. So the first thing that I would suggest is for you to shift that, because you're just wasting money. The number one thing you should always buy is buy the opportunity to improve yourself. Always. So if you're spending money on, in this case, Chips Ahoy and alcohol, or anything else that's an external, feel good restaurant food, whatever, you're losing the opportunity to invest that same amount of money into yourself and grow yourself, which is the whole point of being on the planet anyways. So I would definitely encourage you to shift that and start improving yourself. Get help, get a coach, get a health program, get something that's actually going to move the needle with you. And then the next thing I would say generally, because everybody's kind of at a different space, is to, if you're really struggling with your health right now, struggling being motivated, struggling being accountable, consistent, you're making all the wrong choices, is just pick one thing and fix it. Like, at some point we can have all of these discussions about tactics and strategies and tricks and mindset shifts. At some point though, bluntly, you just got to draw a line in the sand and choose to be different. You can only do the same thing so many times before it even makes yourself want to vomit. So at some point, pick one thing and choose to do something different. Every morning you wake up and you have the choice to do everything that you're going to do. So make one choice different than you made yesterday that's going to move the needle positively, and you're moving in the right direction. Even though it's not giant steps, it's like small steps for man is one giant leap for mankind. So one small step every day. I mean, if you made one positive choice every day, one extra positive choice every day, 30 in a month, it's 3 times 12. It's 100 and what is that? 136, 130, 100, right? Is that 160? Whatever. It's a shit ton. Yeah. It's a shit ton of positive decisions over the course of the year. You do that for 10 years. We're talking exponential growth. So it all adds up to major, major transformations, and people need to start valuing that. Just start valuing the small positive decisions that they can make. Just getting up on time. If you're not working right now, stop sleeping until 11. It's not doing anything. Get up at 7 like you normally would, and start doing something with your day, because you have the time. Usually you'd be at work and you'd be pushing papers at a job you hate for the last 4 hours, but you're not. You get to be home with your family. So get up at 7 and do cool stuff, and go for a walk, or wake up and work out with your kid. Like, I have a 9-month-old and we work out every day. And so I squat with him and he loves it, right? He gets to hang out with me all the time. I'm trying to seep as much out of this opportunity and time. I'm never going to get this time again to be able to be home 100% of the time and hang out with my son.
How much has that meant to you, John?
Oh, it's like the best thing on the planet, dude. I mean, I've seen him grow more in these 3 weeks than I've had the opportunity to since he's been alive. And it's so cool, man. So it doesn't register in my brain how somebody who has a family or who has somebody that they care about, which is pretty much everybody on the planet, can, if they're not working or if they have downtime, can sleep until noon and just waste all that time. I mean, I'm up at 6 o'clock every morning because I just want to watch him hang out with me. And so I just can't even convince myself to take a sleep day, even though I could. There's nothing. I'm just at home, working out and doing live coaching calls and doing these kind of things and calling clients to check in on their progress. But I'm doing it from the comfort of my office. And so I could start at 11. I could start at 12. But why?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
John, just 3 rapid fire questions to close up here. People are at home, sheltering in place, lockdown, whatever the term is, wherever anybody is. If you could recommend one podcast people listen to during this time, what podcast would you recommend?
Yours. Plug in. That's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer to that one. I mean, the only podcasts I really listen to are Joe Rogan. But if you're looking for health stuff, I mean, I don't really have a health podcast that I subscribe to. But if you're looking for just good conversation, I mean, Joe Rogan is probably the best conversation person on the planet that's going to give you like his real opinion. So I always recommend him.
What about a book you'd recommend people read?
Well, I actually don't read hardcover books. I audiobook everything.
It's totally fine. Audiobook's good.
Well, it depends on what you want to grow in. If you want to be a nerd in the health spectrum, I would encourage you to start reading into the nonsense behind cholesterol. So a lot of individuals still believe that like things like eggs and steak are going to cause you to have a heart attack. Couldn't be further from the truth. So I would encourage you to, whether you read a book about it or you go down the actual good research, peer-reviewed third-party research that you can find on the internet behind that, I would encourage you to do that. And if you want to just do some self-growth, I would encourage you to start reading into The Go-Giver, which is a great book. I like that book a lot. It starts teaching you how to be selfless, which is always important.
And last but not least, movie or documentary you'd recommend people watch?
Not the Tiger King one. You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard that name a few times.
Yeah, I made it maybe 20 minutes into the documentary and I wanted to throw a hammer through a window. It's so frustrating to watch. It's the number one documentary on Netflix right now. And it makes me sad that that's what we spend our time watching. Just spend 5 minutes and watch it and then turn it off and be glad that you never watch it again. But a good documentary, I don't have a good one for you. I probably would say something about penguins because I've been watching penguin documentaries with my son for the last 5 days. So that's literally all I'm like thinking about.
Penguins are always a good choice.
My son loves to watch penguins. So I've watched penguin documentary after penguin documentary. So that's literally all that's running in my brain. I couldn't give you a good one unless you like penguins.
Love it, John. All right, everybody, you're going to want to rewatch. John laid out some great stuff for us today, whether it's about doing at-home workouts and bringing your kids in and make them a part of it and giving you another opportunity to experience this time with them, or it's following the golden rules for shopping about just being mindful of where your surroundings are, keeping those blinders on, never going in hungry, looking down at your feet, and having some affirmations that you can really recite to yourself. I love that he reminded us of going deep and really getting clear on finding that intrinsic drive for you for health and fitness. And incidentally, that intrinsic driver will likely be the same driver that you can use to propel yourself in your career, your relationship, and any facet of your life. And it's a wonderful exercise to do from home. It takes a few minutes to do. But as John said, and this is coming from someone who's helped people lose over 8,000 pounds, it obviously works wonders for keeping people inspired, keeping them motivated. And motivation is going to be really critical during this time. It's easy to fall, as John said, out of that routine, out of the habit, sleep in until late, stay up late, not get engaged in those practices. There's a lot of of instant gratification stuff being pushed on us right now, and you want to develop the discipline now to be able to waver through that. Enjoy this time, be present. That's not taking away from that. But what is to say is to say not to sacrifice the things that are really the most meaningful and important to you. Because if you can come out of this time thriving, you're going to set yourself up to probably thrive indefinitely for the next chapter of life beyond this period of our history. John, this is actually incredible, man. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today. And we appreciate you, and we look forward to talking again soon, man.
Likewise, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, Ray. We'll see you next time on another edition of A Handful of Hope. Bye-bye.